Today we're visiting White Castle.
White Castle was originally called Llantilio Castle. The name White Castle wasn't applied until the 13th century when white rendering was applied to its walls.
It is considered to be the best preserved as what is termed the three castles, the other two being Skenfrith and Grosmont, which were lorded together under King Stephen in response to a Welsh uprising in 1135.
The three castles were built around the same time, probably sometime in the 11th century, and were possibly established by the Norman William Fitz Osbern, the first Earl of Hereford, to protect the route from Wales into Hereford.
The three castles' histories are fairly close. However, whereas Skenfrith and Grosmont were turned into something that was comfortable to live in, White Castle's purposes remained mostly military in nature. Later on, it did have a hall, a kitchen and a chapel, but the indication is it would have been a miserable place to live in.
The first castle on this site was built from earth and timber. It was placed into the care of the state in 1922 and is now in the care of Cadw.
White Castle is a Grade 1 listed building and part of the Three Castles Walk. Today we are at White Castle, which looks like that. And from the outside it looks mostly intact still. It's no longer white though.
If you were to ask me to imagine a castle, I would probably imagine something like this, and it's possibly why this is one of my favourite castles. This is magnificent, this castle. It looks just right. It looks the way a castle should look. It's got the circular towers and there's lots of walls and there's bits that are broken down and there's a whacking great big moat. That is a big moat. That's deep and it's stone-sided and it looks really like it was kind of seriously made to, be all fighty and what have you, and it's the ideal castle ruin. If you haven't visited and if you're in the area and you can do it, come and see this one because this one is smashing.
It's purely a defensive position. It wasn't ever really restructured to be lived in either. And what's left here is quite impressive because look at all that work there still. Their windows have these notches out of, and they're not really sure why they're there because mostly they are seen as more of a hindrance than a help. But it's suspected that because White Castle has been built on a hill, it might have given the archers an extra advantage. But it also means they were more vulnerable to being shot back. So, swings and roundabouts, I guess. There are these dinks, for want of a better word, just little lines of them going across, and I don't know what they're for, so if you know, let me know because I'm interested. I can't find anything that mentions them. It looks like there's a walk around the moat that you can do. You've either got a choice of walking around the outside of the curtain wall or around the outside of the moat. Guess what? I have reached a dead end. So it looks like the moat walk doesn't go very far at all, but it does give you some interesting little snippets of the castle through the trees and bits that you wouldn't otherwise be able to see. And you can see right over the surrounding hillsides and mountains. It is a good spot for a castle. I'm going to walk the outside of the curtain wall to see what I can see. I'm guessing some curtain wall and the castle from a distance. So they've got, interestingly, over there a squarish rectangular tower with coins and things, and over there their keep is circular, built at different times, maybe different times, different styles, both defensive because they've got the archers' holes in them. The next tower on again is circular. So that is the end of the curtain wall walk, and now we're back to the beginning with the drawbridge and the entranceway and the castle.
I like to imagine what it must have been like to live here at the height of this castle's power. We are talking about an area that was basically for a long time in a lot of conflict. People were knocking the living daylights out of each other because of where this castle sits. It's an important area because the Normans wanted to subjugate the Welsh. The Welsh were having none of it. It was all very, clashing of steel against steel and all that sort of stuff. But if you can imagine what it must have been like to live here then, the sounds, the smells, it must have been a bit of a pongy place because, basically the outside the castle in the moat was where they threw everything that was, going to smell and be nasty because it was a deterrent to stop people going into the moat, climbing up and battles and all that sort of stuff. Now, there would have been the smell of smoke, there would have been the noise of people doing their everyday things. It would have been utterly different to the serenity that we find here now. I think I prefer the serenity.
So the inside of Skenfrith Castle isn't quite as impressive as the outside, but there's quite a lot of interesting things just spread out around the edge. So it's obviously got quite a big courtyard there because there's nothing built in the middle. And around the edges you've got the well and the insides of the towers. The one I've just walked into was massive. In another one of the towers, on the ground floor, there are 3 arches windows. And then above that, they've got these post holes, which suggests there was a floor above that with some more arches windows, and then another floor above that. There are an awful lot of lookout points. These ones on the ground floor look right over the moat, and further up you go, the further out you'll be able to see. Although this castle was built for warfaring, there were some accommodations and a chapel here. It's got a fireplace over there, and on that wall there is another fireplace.
So how much did you like White Castle?
Quite a bit. I really like White Castle, mainly because there's a massive space that you can just kind of pot around and explore in.
It is sort of good for picnics and running around and...
Yeah, and it is a proper castle. It's a proper fortified castle built for fighting in. It's not one of these that was then called, I'll have a nice live in this. It was never comfortable. It was always built for battling.
As castles go, it has the right romantic look about it that goes, this is a romantic, swashbuckle and that sort of stuff.
A swashbuckle.